Welcome back to Revel and Rathe. I'm your host, Carter Barton. Today, we will be covering how to play a game of Flesh and Blood, giving a complete overview of a game from start to finish. After watching this tutorial, you will be able to understand the basic game rules and terminology of Flesh and Blood, as well as have a list of resources that will quickly be able to help you get into the game. In Flesh and Blood, you play as one of many different heroes, each with their own playstyles and abilities. Your goal is to reduce the life total of your opponent to 0 while protecting your own life total. This is a hero card. There are many different heroes in Flesh and Blood, but for now, we will refer to this Dorinthia card for the purposes of this video. A hero's name is located here, at the top of the card. Below the artwork is the hero's ability, or abilities. In the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the hero's starting life total, while in the left-hand corner, you can see their intellect. Your hero's intellect number determines the number of cards that you draw up to at the end of your own turn, or if it is the first turn of the game. Centered at the very bottom is the type of hero you are playing. In this instance, Dorinthia is a warrior, meaning that she can play warrior cards. You can also play generic cards, which serve as cards that any hero can play. Some heroes have certain elements or traits in addition to their class, meaning that they can play cards of those types as well. For example, Levia can play brute cards, shadow cards, and shadow brute cards, on top of the generics that everyone can play. Now, what kind of hero wouldn't have an awesome weapon? Weapon cards are a large part of how heroes fight in Flesh and Blood. From swords to daggers, to bows and hammers, there are a wide variety of weapons in Flesh and Blood. Dorinthia usually wields Dawnblade, a two-handed sword. The type of weapon and whether it is one or two-handed can be found on the bottom of the card. The amount it attacks for can be found in the bottom left next to the yellow spear. Any additional effects can be found in the card's text box. Besides weapons, every hero needs armor. A headpiece, chest piece, arm piece, and legs piece. Armor serves a lot of different purposes in Flesh and Blood and serves as an important part of every game. The number next to the shield in the bottom left is how much equipment blocks, and its abilities can be found in the card's text box. Most Flesh and Blood cards start in your deck and are shuffled at the beginning of the game. They look something like this. At the top is a card's name, as well as its pitch value and cost. A card's pitch value is denoted by the colored strip at the top of a card, as well as the number of filled-in circles in the top left. A majority of cards in Flesh and Blood have a red, a yellow, and a blue version of the card, with red pitching for 1 resource, yellow pitching for 2, and blue pitching for 3. Pitching is a term used for cashing in a card for resources, and will be explained more in depth later in the video. Besides the difference in pitch value, red, yellow, and blue versions of cards also change the stats of a card when played. For instance, here are the 3 colors of the card Snatch. Red attacks for 4, yellow attacks for 3, and blue attacks for 2. Most decks strike a balance between the 3 colors, where you aim to play your red cards and to pitch your blue ones. A card's cost is denoted by the number located in the top right of a card. When playing a card, or activating an ability, you must pay its cost by pitching cards from your hand. Moving to the bottom part of the card. The number next to the shield symbol in the bottom right is the amount that a card can block for. In the bottom center is what kind of card it is. This is split into the class and card types. The class of a card tells you what heroes can play that card. For instance, ninjas can play ninja cards, and warriors can play warrior cards. Meanwhile, card types tell you how to play a card, and when you can play a card. The 3 card types currently in the game are actions, reactions, and instants, that all have different restrictions for when you can play them. Actions are split into 2 types, attack actions and non-attack actions. Attack actions can be differentiated simply by looking for the word attack on the bottom of the card, as well as by the yellow spearhead symbol located in the bottom left corner. The number next to the spear is the base attack value of a card. The second card type, reactions, are split into 2 types, attack reactions and defense reactions. Simply put, attack reactions are played to increase the damage of an attack, while defense reactions help to prevent the damage of an attack. The final card type, instants, are a rare card type that serves a variety of roles in Flesh and Blood, from damage prevention to life gain, to making you a ham sandwich. Instants can do some awesome things compared to other card types. Flesh and Blood features two primary formats for constructed play: Blitz and Classic Constructed. Blitz is a faster format, featuring 40 card decks with an 11 card sideboard only for equipment. Players can choose young heroes from who to play, and 2 of each card in each color is allowed in this format. This means a player can play 2 red, 2 yellow, and 2 blue snatches in their deck. Classic Constructed is the longer format, featuring 80 card decks. Players play as the older versions of heroes, with the only difference being that older versions have double the life total of their younger versions. Every card, equipment piece, and weapon counts towards your 80 cards, and players must start with at least 60 cards in your deck when starting a game. Players can play 3 of each card in each color in their deck. To start a game of Flesh and Blood, both players reveal their hero to one another. Then, the players must determine a way to randomly decide who gets to choose if they go first or second. After this is determined and the starting player is decided, both players sideboard and choose their equipment and weapons before presenting their deck to their opponent. After both players cut their opponent's decks, they each reveal their equipment and weapons, draw to their intellect, and the first turn begins. A Flesh and Blood turn has 3 phases: the start of turn phase, the action phase, and the end of turn phase. Sometimes, cards have an effect that occurs at the start of turn. Neither player has priority during this phase, meaning that no cards can be played and no effects can be activated during this phase. Once the start of turn effects have resolved, the action phase begins. The player whose turn it is starts with 1 action point. Actions require an action point to activate or to play. But Carter, you may ask, if I only have 1 action point, doesn't that mean I can only play 1 action per turn? Well, let me introduce you to 2 of the most important words in Flesh and Blood. Go again. When an action that has go again resolves, you gain an action point. This means that you can play multiple cards and activate multiple abilities on your turn as long as they have go again. To demonstrate a turn in Flesh and Blood, let's look at a turn between a Katsu player and a Dorinthia player. The Katsu begins their turn by attacking with one of their Kodachi. After declaring their attack, the Katsu pitches a blue head jab to pay the resource cost of attacking with the Kodachi. By attacking with his Kodachi, Katsu has started what is called the combat chain, with the Kodachi being the first chain link of the combat chain. The Dorinthia now has the option to block the Kodachi with cards from hand or with equipment. Deciding not to block, Dorinthia passes priority back to Katsu, who now has the option to play attack reaction cards. Katsu opts not to play the Razor Reflex in his hand, and passes priority back to Dorinthia. Dorinthia passes priority back to Katsu, choosing not to play the defense reaction called Sink Below in her hand. Since both players passed through reactions, damage resolution occurs, and Dorinthia takes 1 damage. Since there is a card that costs 0 in Katsu's pitch zone, the Kodachi has go again, and Katsu can play another action card or activate another ability on his turn. Katsu then plays a red leg tap, using one of his 2 resources left over from pitching the blue head jab earlier. This creates another chain link in the combat chain. Dorinthia chooses to block with a blue overpower. Katsu passes priority, and Dorinthia does as well. Now it's time to do some simple math. Tally the amount of damage threatened and the amount of damage blocked. If the threatened damage is greater, then the difference is dealt. In this case, Dorinthia blocked 3 of Katsu's 4 damage, and she will take 1 damage in total. Because leg tap had go again, Katsu gains an action point. Katsu then decides to play a yellow rising knee thrust, and since leg tap was the last attack this combat chain, it gains +2 and go again due to its combo ability. Dorinthia blocks with an equipment piece, and a card from hand this time. Katsu, seeing an opportunity, plays Razor Reflex after Dorinthia declares blocks, This gives Rising Knee Thrust +3 attack. Dorinthia, not wanting to take damage, then gets to respond with a reaction of her own in the form of Sink Below, blocking an additional 4 damage. Reacting resets priority, allowing for players to play or activate other reactions in response to their opponents. Since neither player has anything left, the chain link resolves and no damage is dealt. Katsu, seeing that he has no further actions on his turn, chooses to move to his end phase. All cards that have been played, whether attacking or blocking, are moved to the graveyard, with the exception being weapons and equipment that do not break upon blocking. Before drawing up, the player whose turn it is can choose to place a card from their hand face down into their arsenal if they have any left over. The arsenal is located below the hero, and serves as a place to store a card for a later turn. Cards from Arsenal can only be played and cannot be pitched. Besides arsenaling a card, both players must clear their pitch zone before the turn passes. If multiple cards are in your pitch zone, you get to choose in what order you want to place the cards on the bottom of your deck. Players only draw up to their intellect number at the end of their own turn, unless it is the first turn of the game, in which case both players get to draw up. This turn process repeats until one player causes their opponent to drop to 0 or lower life, winning the game in the process. When a non-attack action is played, it immediately goes to the graveyard after resolution, meaning that it does not create a chain link. Playing a non-attack action or activating an ability that is not a weapon breaks any combat chain currently in play, moving cards in that combat chain to the graveyard. Instants do not use action points, and can be played at any time a player has priority. This also means that instants do not break any combat chains currently in play. Flesh and Blood also has 2 major types of damage: physical damage and arcane damage. Arcane damage can only be blocked or prevented by special means, meaning a player cannot block with cards or equipment in the way they usually block physical damage. Arcane Barrier, Spell Void, or damage prevention effects are needed to counteract this damage type. Currently, Wizards and Runeblades are the 2 classes that can easily threaten or present damage in arcane form, with a few minor cases of this damage type being in other classes. Now that we've gone over the basics, I want to share with you some of the many resources at your disposal for learning and getting into the game of Flesh and Blood. The first website I want to share with you is fabtcg.com, which is the main website of Flesh and Blood. Here, you can find articles about the game, information on cards and heroes, rules information, event information, lore and stories, and much, much more. This website also features the gem login system. Signing up here with your email gives you a gem ID, which is used to track your progress as a player, as well as to sign up for events. For those looking to start constructing decks, fabrary.net and fabdb.net are great websites that can help you design your own decks or find and compare lists with other people. Both websites feature their own deck building systems and user interfaces, and have complete lists of all the cards currently in the game. This will allow you to brew your own deck to your heart's content. If you want to start playing online, talishar.net is a great resource that allows you to play in your web browser for free. However, I will remind you that the game is called Flesh and Blood, with LSS emphasizing the importance of supporting local game stores and building communities around this amazing game. If you want to find local events near you, go to fabtcg.com/events to find stores hosting events near you. Armory events are weekly events held by stores and are a great way to start playing Flesh and Blood while meeting new people. If you want to get connected to online communities, the Flesh and Blood Community Discord is a great way to get any questions answered, as well as to meet new people or chat about the game. You can find the link to the Discord server in the description below, as well as any other links referenced in this video. Flesh and Blood is a skill-intensive, highly rewarding game that has struck the card game world by storm since its release in 2019. It features a thriving community of passionate individuals across the world. Whether you want to play casually at your local game store, or competitively at the world's highest level of play, Flesh and Blood offers a unique trading card game experience for anyone wishing to play. This video has helped you learn the basic rules and terminology of Flesh and Blood. If you have any questions, make sure to ask them down below in the comment section, and I will answer them when I can. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like it, Make sure to hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon next to it for notifications when I post more content. Thank you to everyone for all the support so far for this channel. I couldn't do it without you guys, and I really appreciate it. Stay tuned for more videos, and thank you for watching. See you next time.